Okay, sawa. So I guess I'm introducing myself to Alan. I think I've met Yash and Con. Philip, we work together. So Kibet, my name is Dennis Ngetich. I work for Health IT as an intern, and I'm also a student at Kabarak University pursuing a master's in IT security and audit. So in a nutshell, that is me. I like programming, but my major focus is information system audit. Matters dealing with policies, guidelines, standards, governance. So those are my areas. So Philip, sijui we jump straight into the iHRIS presentation that we had planned for today. Kindly allow me to share.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it should be okay, so easy.
Okay. With a few clicks, my screen will be up. So I hope it is now visible.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we'll be talking about the iHRIS system. So iHRIS is an abbreviation that stands for Integrated Human Resource Information System. So basically, this is a system that manages the health information workers. Integrated basically means connections of various systems. So as we shall see later on, there are various applications of iHRIS system. For example, they manage, they train, they retain, and they qualify. So these are the systems that have been integrated to form the iHRIS information system, the integrated human resource information system. So basically it is used all over Kenya in the 47 counties that we have. And previously I was tasked together with Mr. Philip Matunda to conduct the iHRIS needs assessment. Basically the idea behind this activity was to find the various gaps that may exist in the system that may basically need system enhancement through the hackathon with the Kabarak University students. But of late, it has become a long shot to take because of the various bureaucracies, the procedures that may need to be followed for us to have that activity, the hackathon activity. So as I've just mentioned, in iHRIS stands for Integrated Human Resource Information System. So this is an open source software that are used by health leaders to track, basically manage, plan the health workers. So it is designed for use by ministries of health, as I mentioned, whereby it is used in the 47 counties in Kenya. By the professionals, the councils, the similar organizations in low resource countries, for example, the Kenya. So iHRIS is available under the GPL version 3 license and is free to download, to use and modify. So in this area, Philip will guide us on how we can get to download and use and modify in the various ways that I've mentioned, basically system enhancement as we had planned through a hackathon. In the Central and Southern Africa Health Community, abbreviations there, met in Arusha, discussed formation of an African observatory from partnership, pool resources and ideas, and harmonize and share HRH information. Basically, they met just to share the HRH information. After this meeting in Kenya, the recommendation were adapted and then immediately set up a HRIS technical working group that was mandated to look into harmonizing the HRH data in Kenya. So quite a lot of literature here. I hope my screen is still visible. So iHRIS, as I mentioned, is an open source software. It is a web-based system whereby basically it is being managed by MOH, and you can access it over the internet. So the use will only need a computer. For us to access the iHRIS system, we only need a computer. or your phone or your tablet, whichever gadget that you have. And as we all know, the trend nowadays, uh, the adoption of bringing your own device, the Void trend. So iHRIS has two main modules, but it has other modules that I had mentioned before, the various applications that we have. So, but the two main modules are the iHRIS Manage and the iHRIS Train. Philip will look into it much later on. So, as I mentioned before, it is currently hosted by the Ministry of Health and supported by HRH Kenya mechanism with funding from USAID, who are also our main donor as the health IT. So also iHRIS is in use in 47 countries that mentioned this. So these are the things that justified the development of iHRIS system. And as you can all remember, when we were doing our projects, you remember that part in your project proposal, just and up-to-date HR information. For example, when you put your details in iHRIS, they're always up to date. It captures current data. So again, the information provided aids in HR planning, budgeting, timely recruitment. For example, you may have a scenario of you have two workers and for example, one of your employee may want to take a leave, but the other one, for example, is a lady. Let's imagine it's a lady and she's due to go for a maternity leave. So this will be able to inform you that in 2 weeks time, Madam so-and-so will be going for her maternity leave. Then I may not need to give this other employee leave because I may end up having no employee at that time. So again, to project deployment by establishing losses, e.g. retirements are not may not wait until the actual loss occurs. For example, if I'm 58 years old, then the iHRIS system can be able to notify the HR personnel that I'll be going for retirement in due course, so that they're able to plan for other recruitments. So iHRIS system also will track the career progression basically iHRIS capture and be able to workers and system the promotions. So this is much later. Interrupt me. iHRIS tracks health workforce provider the case the track who is training and where the Matunda whereby we big organization. Let me Kabianga or hacker to attend but I hope you get it. So for example, the this other one is the link to the iris train, but these are the demo sites. So below here, we have the live sites, the links to the live sites, but for you to get access to these live sites, you might need permission from the various administrators of this iris system. So again, both sites are basically similar, but the data that is available in this system may vary because the live system, as we know, with the Data Protection Act, it's very difficult to get this iris, access. So this is a continuation of how you can access iris. So you basically need the login credentials, you need the username and password. So most of these things are self-explanatory. As IT guys, we all know the login credentials that you may need to access a system. So I may skip this, but let me just give you a few minutes to look at it. I'll share the presentation. So that is how you access iris system. This slide talks about the various iris applications. As I mentioned before, we have the iris manage, to qualify, plan, retain, and train. But the main iris applications that are applicable to us may be only manage and train. So let me take you through these various applications. And as we all know, iris, the small I there, stands for integration. So these are the various applications that have been integrated to come up with the human resource information system. So number one, you have the manage. So the manage allows tracking and managing of health workers. So when you're using the iris manage, you basically capture the details of the health workforce or the various personnel that you may want to put into the system. For example, it captures your name, your ID number, your contact details, the various qualifications, educational background. So that is all about iris manage. It basically captures your details as a health worker. When you go to the iris qualify and you read, it enables the professionals, councils, and associations to register licenses, regulatory health workforce to support increased quality of care. So this is basically the control measure of the various health workers that we have. And we have various organizational bodies that may be in use that may become very handy when it comes to iHRIS qualify. For example, as we all know, the KMPDU, the Kenya Medical and Dentist Practitioners Board. So basically, this is one of the systems that they use to qualify the various health workers. For example, you can't be registered if you don't have a degree, a certificate, or maybe master's, or whichever qualifications that they may need for you to be registered as a health worker. So also we have the iHRIS plan. And compare them with projected needs. For example, you may realize that in Nairobi we have a lot of consultants, the people who have vast experience in the health sector. When you go to Lodo, for example, you may basically not find the various experiences that you may get in Nairobi. So with the iHRIS system plan, you can be able to identify that a certain region or certain jurisdiction lacks a certain various cadres that we have. For example, the nurses, the clinicians, the doctors, so on and so forth. So the iHRIS retain developed in collaboration with the World Health Organization, the WHO. It helps countries to plan and cost recruitments and retention interventions. So basically this is what gives you the data that may be able to help you to plan the cost, recruitment, and retention. For example, it can be able to tell you that, for example, 3,000 workers are going on retirement. You may need to recruit like another 3,000. So it gives you the scenario of the real picture on the ground. Again, lastly, most importantly, the iHRIS train. So this is where most issues as arose in Nakuru County and Baringo County. So last week, we had a meeting with the Director of Administration and Planning, and they've been having issues about iHRIS train. So one of the needs that these guys need or are foreseeing is for the system to basically inform the various stakeholders of the iHRIS system to be able to project the future needs, the future training needs. So I hope you get my point. So they've been using this system, but there's something that they're foreseeing that maybe, for example, in Kenya, previously we had the corona issue. So for example, the system was not able to give a clear picture of the kind of training that may become very handy when it comes to dealing with the various issues pertaining to corona. The system may only tell you that we have certain qualifications, but trying to adapting with the kind of scenarios that are arising in the ground, it lacks that capability. So I hope that was clear. And that brings me to the end of this presentation. I hope I was clear as to not receive any questions. But in case you have any question, you can feel free to ask me through the chair, who's Mr. Philip Matinda. So thank you guys for listening to me, and back to you, Phil.
All right, thanks, Dennis, for that presentation. I believe you're clear enough on what iHRIS is all about and the problems it's trying to solve, and like come up the solution that it offers to those kind of problems. So if anyone has a question, kindly, this is the time to ask Dennis before like we go to the system itself. So anyone with a question? Yes, Dagi. Hey, Dagi. Feel free to go on. Yeah. We can't hear you, Douglas. Yes, Jim.
There is some.
Pardon? Hello. The issue is on my.
There's some clarification that I need to know about the system.
Right.
Literally, this system is concerning which human resource, right?
Yes.
Does that mean that the system can be used anywhere apart from being used in the medical facilities?
Yeah. True. Jemo, tumepoteza kidogo. Is the issue on my side, Ama? Can you guys get James vizuri?
Hello.
Hello, Jemo. Yeah.
Yash ndio kuna shida. Yash najimute na nimute.
I was asking you to unmute.
Sasa unaniuliza ni unmute alafu unajimute tena.
Okay,
Nauliza kama hii system inaweza tumika anywhere apart from medical facilities.
so I'll request Dennis to answer that.
Sijui kama mnanisikia?
Yes, tunakupata.
Sikia.
So the system can be used in various organizations that you may want to put this system into use. So as I had mentioned before, we have the various applications of iHRIS. So you might realize that various organizations have various needs of managing their human resource. And one good application that can be used across various organizations is the iHRIS Manage. So iHRIS Manage, as I mentioned before, it is an application that basically captures the details of an employee. And some of the details are, for example, the personal details, your name, your age, date of birth, your gender. Another details are, for example, the contact details, your email, your phone number, your qualifications, education background.
It seems we have lost.
Kai, nilipotea?
Yeah, ulipotea kidogo.
Okay, but I hope I was able to answer. I didn't even get the person who asked the question.
It's James.
Ojemo?
Yeah, you answered me.
Okay, thank you.
And then there is a URL that I saw in the document about something to do with the password is demo and the username is demo. Would you share that URL with us so that we can try if the system is on?
Pardon?
Na URL iko kwa document yako hapo chini, hapo kwa username. The last one on that page. Would you mind sharing us with the URL so that we can try kama yours, we try the system?
I've visited this. Let me check if okay. I've visited this. There are various demo sites that have been put there for people to view the system. But this particular site is for the Ministry of Health Kenya. I tried reaching out to this. I tried accessing this site, but unfortunately, it's not going through. One reason or the other. But there's another link. That can be accessed. Let me just try accessing that other system.
Okay.
Philip, maybe tunaweza chukua question nyingine nikitry ku access hiyo system nyingine.
Alright, sure. Okay. Douglas, you still have a question? Please go on. You have a yeah.
Nimeipata, but this hii tutapitishwa na Phil atatake us through this nini. I hope it is now visible.
Deno, you can go through it.
Alafu
I tackle like the code itself. Yeah, kuna like setting up the environment and the code, what to look out while like doing development on iHRIS.
Okay, haina shida.
Yeah, okay.
So Jemo, I hope you're still with us. Jemo, ama ni nani aliuliza URL?
Ni mimi.
Ama niko peke yangu?
Uko peke yako.
Phil, mnani get?
Yeah,
Phil.
Hey, Deno. Hello?
Yeah, Phil.
Yeah, tunakupata poa.
Oh, nikaa nili drop out kidogo. Net yangu imekuwa unreliable.
I think pia it goes both ways. Pia yangu it's not that good, but sawa tu.
Okay. So I hope sasa iko visible, yeah?
Pana, no, we can't see a screen. I think I'm a drop off tena, so I think net yake, but it's okay. So Dagi, you had a question. You unmute, but nini, like we can't hear you talking.
Phil.
All right. Dagi, just ask the question through the chat. Dennis. Hello?
Get?
Yeah, tunakupata.
Maybe ni switch net.
Okay.
Your screen iko visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So kama mnavyoona hadi inaongea Kiswahili sanifu. Hii ni iHRIS Manage, si ndio? So iHRIS Manage has various modules in it. And as we saw earlier before, we have various applications of iHRIS, which are iHRIS Manage, Train, Retain, Qualify. So this is the iHRIS Manage application. So with the iHRIS Manage, the things that you can do with iHRIS Manage is basically to manage people. Let me just jump into it. So what you can do with the iHRIS manage people, you can basically add people, as it says here. So if we jump into add people, it will give you a form that you'll use it to add various employees. Let me not use health workers, because with iHRIS manage, it cuts across various organizations. So for example, we can enter somebody by the name ABC, then our first name, we can call it CBA. Then other names, that is not necessary. When it comes to nationality, we can put Kenyampia. Then residence, let's also put Kenyampia. So you can confirm, and then you can save. So this leads us to this form. It's a comprehensive form whereby it captures various details of an employee. So this system can be used, basically it cuts across various organizations. So let us just go up there. So it captures the individual information, basically. These are the surname, first name, other names. It also captures your photo. It also captures your resume, the CVs, and whatever have you. It also captures the contact details. And as you can see, my arrow, it captures hard work, contact. It captures a lot of details. It also captures the next of kin. It also captures your position, information. You have time to look at it. If you go one by one, it can take even it can take up us even a whole day. It captures your confirmation information, your qualifications. So basically, this is the main module of the iHRIS Manage application. Basically capturing the various information of a health worker, or not health worker, or of an employee. It also captures employment history. It captures application. There's so many information that iHRIS Manage can capture. So iHRIS being integrated human resource information system, that earlier said, and I can iterate on it. Integration basically is the integration of the various applications. So iHRIS Manage can be integrated with iHRIS Train. So if you go to iHRIS Train is basically the system that tries to capture the training information of an employee. So if you go to iHRIS Train, the iHRIS Train is integrated with the iHRIS Manage. So you can find all these details that you've placed in iHRIS Manage. You can also find it in the iHRIS Train. So that is the whole point of the integration part of the iHRIS application. So I hope this is clear. Maybe I can hand over to Philip and try to jump to. So here, view records. Here, individual records, the contact information, the position. And with the iHRIS application, you can also search for records. You can also view records, and you can also configure the system, and you can also change password. So with the configure the system is how you set up the system to basically to be able to get the kind of reports that you want. So it does not restrict you to the pre-coded reports that are basically there. You can have your own customized reports when you use the configure system. So I can quickly jump into configure system. So with the administrator database, you basically choose the various information that you have provided in the iHRIS Manage. So with the administrator database, just basically pick the various, you can pick only the educational background information. You can also pick the contact information only. You can also pick the names only. For example, you want to know how many nurses that we have in for example, a certain jurisdiction, let's say in Nakuru County. You can basically select all these details with administer database. Then you can also manage those reports. Managing the reports, you basically using the filters. As you can all know, you're IT guys, you basically use the filters that you have that you want. Basically, you might want only nurses who are above 50 years old. Or for example, you might want to see nurses who are 58 years old and they are due to retirement at 2 years' time. So this is what you do with the manage the reports. You might So basically, I hope that is clear with the configure the system. It's not all about, I know when it says configure system, it might bring other ideas to the computer guys. Basically, this is all about iris manage. So it talks about managing people. You can search records. Basically, searching records is trying to find out, trying to look or pinpointing a certain employee. View records, as I mentioned, you basically view the kind of records that you generated with the configure system. Basically, you're just viewing the records that you, let me just jump into it really quickly. So these are the various configured reports that have been somebody somewhere else. I remember I did this, the iris train. I also did something very hard. Let me just jump into it very quickly. We have training course information, the various cadres, and jump into this. So you can add a new cadre. Let me say, let me just go back and see if I have. So these are the various cadres that we have in the health sector. So supposing you're an ISP, an ISP provider, internet service provider, you can basically put like network admin. There you have network admin, you save. And when you go back, my net has gone down. The system is unavailable or something. Can you hear me? Phil?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So as you saw earlier, we have the network admin. We can just jump into the network admin. And with the network admin, you can basically provide various other information. You can update this information. You can select another cadre. So this is how iris, how you use the iris configure. So we can also jump into view reports. So these are the various reports that you can view with the iris manage. So there are so many. This system can, as I mentioned before, it can take a whole day to really get understand and synthesize the system. So if time allows, or I have taken a lot of time, maybe I just hand it over to Philip. Then we will share this. We will share these links. Then we can have a look at it at our own time. So maybe Philip, back to you. You can basically talk to us about how we can download, configure the system. So back to you, Philip.
All right. Thanks so much, Dame, for the presentation and the demo. Yeah, thanks so much. So I'll just go around the system. But if you'd noticed, the demo that Dennis had shared me version 4.3, I believe. So there's this version 5 where the emphasis imekuwa kwa the user interface and like trying to integrate iHRIS with other modules such as iHRIS. So let me just share my screen. But as I share that, nataka kujua like how many have interacted with JavaScript and I'm coded or just developed something with JavaScript. Anyone? And what's the experience?
Yes, I can say.
Pardon?
Hello.
Yes, Dagi.
Yes, I have coded in JavaScript,
Yeah.
but I have interacted with the React.js framework in building the sites.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's not as complicated as you can't actually compare. There's no hakuna programming mostly hutumika kwa web kwa frontend apart from JavaScript. So if you are developing user interface for the web, you probably have used JavaScript for interactivity, and it's JavaScript being like in a try to rely going down the back end with Nodejs, and this software here, it's written fully in JavaScript, both front end and back end. And to me, it was the most exciting thing. Even like trying to look at the code and trying to do the installation in this session, it was like it was kind of an experience because with Express in the backend, Express is a framework for Node.js, then Vue for the front end, which is quite interesting. So this is the software itself. It's open source, of course, so you can, and it's being updated, as you can see, 7 hours ago. It's in active development, but I don't think we will be doing that much development with the iHRIS, because much work has been done, and perhaps deployment for county level, and there's need for iHRIS managing human resources at the county level. So I'd suggest like you just try it for learning purposes. If you want to figure out how JavaScript is used for the front end and the back end, I think this is a good place to like just dig in and start doing some work. So installation, just like clone this into your local repo. Nilikuwa nishafanya hivyo. So let me share the IDE. So here it is. And of course, ukisha get a project, the first thing you go is the README. Now, there's like instruction for like how you are supposed to operate that software as a developer. And I really encourage, if you're going to either build something for the open source, just try to do documentation of your software. In case someone like encounters the software, they have a rough idea of how the software works, and they can improve the software and like build on top of it. And that's the challenge I've been having personally. Like, there's a software, there's a really good software, but hakuna documentation. So like trying to have a work around it, it's pretty hectic. So you can see it's built with Vue.js for the front end, and Node.js for the back end. There's instruction of how you can clone it, and then you do npm installation. But not for the front end and the back end. There's a README for how like you do both installation of the modules in both the back end and the front end. So there's the front end npm install. You install the dependency into the front end, then you serve the application. Then you build in case you want to move it into deployment, and you run unit testing or E2E testing. But you also need to do installation for the backend. It's quite big, as you can see. As you can see, the backend, the system, and on the README, it's pretty much the same as the front end. You have to install the. So this is the backend. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the backend. So there's you pretty much install, do the whatever you're supposed to do in the front end, you install. And before that, on the front end bit of the system, there's this package.json. So this is where the packages exist, and you can see all this. So these are the dependencies of your of this software. You can either choose to install a dependency from Hapa. So either you can add something like Axios and then put a version there. Then you can npm install it will install the specific dependency you may specify at this point. I think that's a bit clear. Then there's Vue for CSS, all these are dependencies. Then this, you shouldn't worry much about this. Mostly Babel, you might at some point have to interact with this part, but not that often. And this is only like auto-generated code into your package.json. So let's go back to the backend. So you have to load the files into the profiler. I'm still setting up the. If you notice in this project structure, there's this hapi-fhir, the hapi-fhir JPS server. This is written in Java, so that's where I am. I'm setting up this, but I'll go in details into it. For now, let's okay. Notice, yeah. Sorry. When you notice on the project folder, there's this hapi-fhir JPS server starter. But ukikuja hapa kwa nini yenyewe kidogo tu, ukikuja kwa nini umeclone, like it's not there. So there's instruction for that. Just a minute. The instruction for that. So project setup, to start the development server, then you run the daemon for the iHRIS service, then restart and make sure the daemon is running in a run. Then the notes, sorry, let me go to this. So take note of this, the notes install.md. So this is another set of instruction of how you go about doing the installation for the backend. So the node, of course, you have to have node since it's a JavaScript software. I install Redis. Redis is in-memory. It's an in-memory database, and you can handle mostly the data structures. Yeah, this software. Then the Tomcat, which serves from the backend, the database being used is Postgres. And now here, this is where the fun bit comes about the hapi-fhir, whatever it is. So this is an API, and this API ilitengenezwa like to encourage interoperability. So today morning we had a meeting together with Dennis, and they were talking about standard operating procedures. So which, like if you're coming to develop to deploy as a health system in Nakuru, you have to follow those standards. And the reason this hapi-fhir API was created, and it could encourage like interoperability between the systems around the health department. So let me do this. Let me share the so it's just an API. So you have to set up Postman for that to like do calls and just crude application to the API. Crude application to the API, then get data, which will reach and sasa ipe kwa the front end side of it, ndio ionyeshe whichever specification, whichever data you specified that you want to use. So here it is. This is just a test server for that hapi-fhir. And this is a lot of information that is being handled at this point. So like you just know the main purpose here, like an API. So this is kind of Postman. The structure here, Glome set up this website, but you have to like try the data out yourself from Postman. So like making system calls, and let's just do an example. Like you want to view patients' data, right, from FHIR, and you specify like general practitioner and the patient organization. These are the parameters that you want to see. Then you search. Search, like it gives you all that, information. So in a form there, like it's okay, and that's exactly what you'll see in Postman. Like the date, and you may find the requests, the modified date, the server, and it's used to serve this hapi-fhir and all that. Then coming to the data itself, you can actually see the body. So let's say the resource type, it's the patient that you want to see. The ID, version ID, text, the name of that patient, family, and all that. And there's a lot of data that you can check it out, right? So yeah. So I'm going to prepare a small presentation to also like help me understand what this is all about, because it's quite new to me. So Tesla is my presentation. Yeah, here it is. So parts to consider for the FHIR. One is the data model for healthcare resource supporting data types. And you'll see like the patient as the domain resource, the one that you want to look data from, and the properties when you score. So that's one thing to look out for. Then part two, the RESTful API. So I just picked up this short image to like illustrate what I mean, but hakuna mobile app kwa iHRIS. So there's the API, the FHIR server, then the iHRIS system, the database. Remember the database is natumia Postgres. Then that's where like the data is being stored. The API makes the calls, the CRUD, you can do the CRUD, create, read, update, delete from there, then make it accessible to the user of that software. So what exactly is a hapi-fhir? So it's not a client or a server, but it's a toolkit for building either your client or a server. So for Postman, like you can use the hapi-fhir to like serve your application and make the server application to the client, make the data application to the client. Then why it's used in iHRIS. So at the top here, so this is the application itself, right? Then the authentication, who's supposed to view that data. So kama inaenda kwa human resource manager, kama inaenda kwa which like unakumbuka that AMI kind of structure. So who's supposed to see what data, right? Then there is the clinical data repo, enterprise scheduling system, data from all the departments, coming lab, coming clinic, coming pharmacy, all that data equal. So it's the fire layer equal as a unified data layer. Then ukiangalia, I'd gone through that, the structure, the patient resource, the raw message, where the patient is the main resource type, then the ID and all that, then the text, and whatever message or data that you want from the API. Then the structure, the human name data type. So hapa inafanana, the resource type and all that, version, last update. So that's just the timestamp that you've used to access the data. Then the language, yeah, the patient, it's English, perhaps the period in yamekuwa, and it's the iHRIS the main focus of iHRIS is for the human resource, but hapa like the fire server, it has data for even the patient. So in some patient, like just convert that whatever I'm saying into the context of human resource. Okay, so the practitioner, whatever the data you want to it being displayed, the organization, the code, location, the phone number, the email, and all that. It's and the available time, so all that. Then so let's say you want to do a lookup query, like you want to search a person from the server. So and actually this is the beauty of JavaScript. Like it's quite simple. Nikiangalia hivi you can understand. Like I've been trying to interact with Java, and man, the complexity in the code, it's on another level. But so ukiangalia, like it's looking up the query, then it's supposed to return a promise, which will resolve or reject. Axios, if fire Axios itself is a HTTP client. It makes HTTP client calls. So it wants to search the person, then it queries, and for that, it's supposed to give a response. And these are the conditions. Then it can be able to like give whatever you want to search with the lookup query. Then you can look up by mail. So look up by mail, email. Then what do you want the software to return? So that's what it returns. Then if you want to find the ID of the person, again, fire Axios, it wants to read that data and give you the response. So key components in Hapi, the structure classes, and not that Hapi server is written in Java. So lazima kuwe na system requirement, lazima kuwe na JDK 8 and above, Maven, alafu na the server the local server, either JT or Tomcat. Then the parsers, then used to convert the models into XML or JSON. I don't know who uses XML nowadays, but during my most software in Interact now, they use JSON for data representation. Then the client, yeah, yes.
But when develop apps Android or XML.
Okay. They need an upgrade. XML letter, okay, but let me not be a critic. So the client, they use HTTP Axios to access the server from Lemona. So like kama ni mobile application, then you have to like use to use XML. So but mean in the context of iHRIS and the development through JavaScript and Node. Then the server, which now you have to build the FHIR server itself and the utilities. Then the FHIR clients, so recap of REST. So FHIR defines basic CRUD application that can be performed on FHIR client server. You want to create, read, update, delete, and maybe search. And this is it. So if you want to create, this is HTTP, sorry, there's no L upper, and base, then the type of data that you want to create. And okay, notice like there's this sensitive data, like ukienda tuseme kama kwa MOH data analytic platform, hakuna option ya create, sorry, hakuna option ya create, hakuna option ya update, na hakuna option ya delete. The only option ni iko ni ya read. So you just have to, because you can imagine a developer then can access your sensitive data, then kuna option ya create, update, delete. So they can do a whole lot of mess with these instances. So the same instance ya update, so mnajuanga like vile pia inakuanga like this is the base the base yenye API may specify, then the type of data that you want to update, then the specific ID and delete. Then kuna kwa query, I think we can naonyesha query hapa. So with query there's like two options where there's ID, then whatever you're supposed to query and whatever you want to query. So I'll share the slides. Stop comma here, baby. These are links that you can access. So happy that the server part now the REST, they provide the REST server framework, and that's just to make data equal, like easily interchanged between systems, and it's based on the standard server 2.5 class. And the Tomcat JT, you can serve it through Tomcat JT or but isn't the mostly nimejaribu kuinteract nayo hata kwa OpenIRS. So the server architecture, I'm still like trying to grasp that, but it's just happy RESTful server, then your resource provider, and then you can access the backend system and then whatever system. And that's the end of my presentation. So if you could let me take you through the project structure and review. Just a minute. So anyone with a question up to hapo before like I move on to the project structure, nipitie tu juju and what like we should take care of and all that. Anyone with a question? So okay, so the front end, it's pretty easy. Like what's what do you want the viewer to see? This is it. Components, like with how they're trying to do with the web, like everything in a website in a core, like it's being wanna consider everything in a web as a module, as a component, right? So kama kuna navigation bar, that's a component. Kuna part ya footer, hiyo ni component. Part ya like every part they're trying to make it a component, do it like easy for development and all that. So for components, layout, it's like this whole thing. Let's say for code editor ama ni ID, whatever. Hii yote ni layout, like the bigger one. Then hiyo sasa ndo like una define to come like what won't change ukienda kwa another page or something like that. So header, that's a part of the layout, footer, navigation, and authentication. So in the iHRIS, so that's where like you define. So kama umesha search through the fire, sorry. Also the fire, so hapa kama umesearch data from, kama unataka to make it accessible, data yenye tayari umeshaitoa kwa API. So this is where like you define the view. How do you want to view that message? And Dagi, since like you can compare, okay, let me not bring comparison up, but like it's quite easy to understand this code. Like more like, it's more like it's not even more like it's HTML, but with some added kind of syntax kama hizi .mbili loading. So hapa nikawa naambia your view bind this data into your front end, and so that's what it's trying to do. And here is the data. So kama it's true, then bind it. It's not hard to understand, so you can like pretty easily pick up from the code and try to understand how the code relate to each other. So and the plugins I don't know, you guys should research plugins. So they could try to explain such concepts. Sometimes it's a bit hard, but yeah, plugins ni kama like Beautify. It's Beautify ni kama like view, then whatever I don't know, like you guys go and research. Oh, but
it sound kama kurembesha ama
yeah,
sound kama kurembesha.
yeah, Beautify mostly ni CSS components enye sasa una try ku plug into your application katika hiyo. But so but thanks I think yeah, umenipa idea. So Beautify JS, then Fire utilities.js, those are the plugins. Then routers ni kama unatoka from one page to another. So how do you define that? And I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. Anyone with a question?
Hello.
Yes, Dagi?
Yeah, venye naweza sema plugin
Yeah.
ni kama huwa zina increase tu functionality ya website, like kama unasema unataka kitu fulani, unaona, bila wewe ku code, ama tuseme unaweza tumia tu plugins na ni kama urembo tu.
Yeah, true. Yeah, thanks for that. That's it actually. Like trying to improve yeah, little explain. That's it.
Oh, yeah,
Then,
oh, beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, beautiful. Ni kama ni design materials plugin.
yeah, true. So like ina specify the themes yenye unaweza tumia. So ukiweka tuseme backend, kuna that kind of theme yenye unataka appeal kwa the entire front end of your application. Unataka ikuwe backend too, and I think that's how it's easily like to develop website yenye kuna dark mode and the light mode nowadays. Yeah, alafu then kuna hizi the common messages colors yenye kama ni success inafaa kwa green, alafu warning ni red, info and what not. So ukikuja kwa store, hapa ni where like una the state management wenye una manage your data. And a good example ni time wenye Facebook walikuwa na develop messenger, wali notice mtu anaweza ingia kwa messenger a view message yenye imetumwa, lakini haita appear kwa yule user mwingine, like umseme ameona message yake. So wakaona like that's a challenge, and that's how they introduced Redux, which is a state management in React. In Vue there is Vuex. I don't know about Angular. Then the styles, where you define the global styles, and the views. So views ni like one view, there's home view, about view, and all that, like that's here. And then the backend, that's it for the front end. Nothing much. For the backend, configuration features, this is where like you define the security layer for your application, the mixins, modules. Some of these things I'm currently learning, so I'm not quite conversant with it, but for kama hizi modules nika user, that's where I got the screenshots from. So where they can look up the email and all that, and pretty much applies for all these other modules, and the public, what's available across the application, the images, CSS files, then the routes, and Hero. I think it's part of iHRIS, but we'll look into it. And this is like they have good integration from Hero, and that's what I noticed. And nikikuja hapa, let me just okay. And okay, on the left, for digital solution, there is here is the arrow. So it's a two-way mobile phone-based communication system based on iHRIS that uses SMS text messages and interactive voice calls. More like what Africa's talking does with their APIs to connect ministries of health and health workers. So it operates on simple talk and text messages devices, and they're using Twilio, and we have the Twilio champion here, anaitwa Yash Patel Alen Kumar. Yes, so anatumia like they're using Twilio, but I think you can plug Africa's talking APIs into this, and it will still work seamlessly. Yeah. So any question, Adi hapo? I think this is the end of whatever I was supposed to present today. Any question? I'm not sure about the Sedona, like the integration of this other. These are the digital solutions.
Phil,
Yeah.
yangu si swali.
Okay.
Unaweza stop kurekod sasa ama?
Oh,